Hi everyone. So this memorial was established in the late 1940s, so almost immediately after the establishment of the State of Israel. There you go. And you can see here the yellow star. This is the symbol that the Jewish people had to wear. So Chamber of the Holocaust, or Martef HaShoah. So the Shoah is catastrophe, and this word is only applied to, well, the Holocaust. However, it's also important to mention that the International Holocaust Remembrance Day is not really not celebrated. Um, it, it's not really marked in the Jewish calendar because there is a, a separate holiday on the Jewish calendar, Yom HaZikaron. It's kind of the day of remembrance, and it is celebrated in spring in the month of Nisan, which is April. Let's put it like this. Jewish calendar is a little bit it's flexible. It moves because it's solar and a little bit lunar, so it's a little different. So Jewish holidays, as you know, they celebrate on different days every year, but it's just celebrated in spring in April. So let's begin. Where are we located? We're located on Mount Zion, outside of the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. Those of you who have done tours of Jerusalem, you probably know very well what I'm talking about. And why is this memorial located here in Mount Zion and not in the Jewish Quarter, for example, or not by the Western Wall, which is the biggest open air synagogue, right? The closest you can get to the place where the Jewish temple once used to be. Well, that's simply because that after 1948 war, that started immediately after the British Mandate finished, well, after this war, as a result of this war, so the Jewish state was established. Israel was established, but the entire old city of Jerusalem, including the Jewish quarter, was under the Jordanian control. So there was no access to the Western Wall. There was no access to that Jewish quarter, and Mount Zion is one of the closest sites the Jewish people could get to if they wanted to, to pray and to be closer to the site of the temple. It's like 5 minutes walk from the entrance to the Jewish quarter. And it's a small site. Not everyone actually knows that it exists. Well, I mean, many do know, but tourists normally not taken there. Jewish people, kids are taken there, but it's a different kind of museum. It's not really a museum, it's a memorial site. And it was established first and foremost by the first survivors of the Holocaust that managed to flee Europe and made Aliyah to the very, very newly born state of Israel. I mean, modern state of Israel. And these people who established this memorial, they remembered very well the Holocaust. They went through the Holocaust. Some of them were in evacuation, and eventually they were able to make their way to the Holy Land. Some survived from the liberated camps and would come later on. And you see, it even says that the diaspora is Shiva, so the whole place is kind of the hub of the diaspora in general. So because Jews for 2,000 years lived in a diaspora, they lived in what's called Galut. There are a lot of different inscriptions from. There's a lot of different names that definitely ring a bell to you, names of different camps. There are a lot of words written, a lot of parts of the Psalms and everything. And yes, it's definitely more than just a memorial to those who perished in the Holocaust, but it's also, so that's why I hope this will feel as also memorial to the well, to the rebirth of starting things from scratch in the new place, in the new homeland. And the memorial, there's a small monument, a statue right next to the entrance to the kind of the museum part. There's a little girl. Okay, give me a second. I'm not sure if you could see that. So I will probably just read it to you because I just realized that some of you must be maybe watching it from the from a tablet or maybe even your phone. So I don't think you could see it. So this is the sculpture of a little girl, Stella Knobel. She is the survivor. She is the child survivor of the Holocaust. She did not go through any camps, so she was able to escape from Poland to the Middle East, and then through the Middle East, eventually her family made their way to Israel, and all the way through multiple, small camps. After so many cities that her family had to change, the small teddy bear was with her, and we know that uh, the 6 million Jews. This is the, I would say, unanimously recognized number of the total of the Jewish people. And out of that 6 millions, there's about 1.5 million children that died. So I guess this is a, well, maybe not a good start. Maybe that's the wrong wording, but this is something that's definitely focuses on hope, right? On starting to build in life from scratch and continuing no matter what. And when I was preparing for this tour, I found an article from 2013. So this little girl, she so her entire family survived. This is amazing. So they were able to take just one suitcase, and so she also took the teddy bear. So that was it. And this is how they left. And this is how they spent several several years, about a well, yeah, several years they spent in Iraq, and this is her. So the girl in the white dress. This is Stella Knobel with a friend. I don't know who the other girl is. So these are the photos taken in Poland, and her family. Well, it was a Jewish family. They well middle class, well established in the society, and they were able to flee. That they were very fortunate that they were able to escape before everything started. They were very lucky. So this is already the photograph in one of the camps, not not the concentration camps. It's one of the camps for the um, well, for the refugees, for the immigrants, because obviously they were not the only ones who tried to flee. And this is her with her family, her mother and father. This is a happy story. So they fled. They did not suffer. They didn't see anything, and they came to Israel. They were one of the first, um, um, well, newly. Okay, so there is the word alim. I was trying to find a better word, but there is not really a better word. So Olim, this is the one who returns, right? The new immigrant, the person who actually returns to their historic motherland, and so they were one of the first ones, so to speak, that came, and they were the survivors of the Holocaust. I mean, I'm not talking about those who had already been there, but in the very first waves after the state of Israel was established, and they survived. And I found an article that Stella Knobel was still alive in 2000s, and she had that bear with her throughout her life, and she gave it to this memorial in about 2013. This is the photograph of that teddy bear. I'm not sure at which point the teddy bear lost his eye. This is Stella Knobel herself, a beautiful woman. It's just amazing to see her smiling. The teddy bear looks so cute. Yeah, definitely has been through a lot. But so I like the idea. So, but indeed, this is a very green place in many ways because it's not a museum to educate. It was built by the same, but people just like the Noble family. But well, Noble family was lucky because they escaped. But they were people who went through the camps. They were people who had lost lots of their family members or the entire family. And that was something, by the way, this urn is here to commemorate um, mm, um, the um, the deportation of Jews from Rome. And here we are. So first, I would like to start with this courtyard, which is filled with I don't know how many there are stone tablets, memorial plaques. Most of them are in Hebrew, but you can see some in English as well. These are all the names of the Jewish settlements, of the shtetls, right, of the communities and synagogues that were destroyed during the Holocaust. So people who came, they wanted to remember, and they wanted other generations to remember that. It may come as something, as, well, it's quite as a surprise. Obviously, this is known to the Jewish people and, well, is familiar with the history, but I will explain just in case. It may sound weird, but for several years after the Second World War and Holocaust, Jews were not actually talking much about it. It wasn't really accustomed to talk that much about it for a number of reasons. And first of all, well, there were people who still did not believe in that. And if you made it out of the camp, like, were you a spy? Did you denounce on someone? And how did you manage to get out? And so all that took several years to come to the surface. And that's why the people who came to the state of Israel, that was a way for them to let it out. So there are two courtyards, and all of them are filled with these memorial plaques. Just imagine how many families, how many settlements, shtetls, synagogues were destroyed, completely gone. So the generations of families were just completely exterminated. I know many stories, so I have never taken my tourists there, to be honest. Well, I haven't been guiding much, some of it. I also used to guide while I was still studying, but well, anyway, I never took tourists to that place, and I, well, never really planned to do a tour on this site, but it just, I guess this is the right timing. It's just about time to do it now. But I know many stories. So in many cases, even when Jewish people come, let's say, who live in the States or in Europe, they don't know much about this monument, and then they're offered to come to this monument, and then they see names of the communities. They see the names from the shtetls from their grandparents were from. They sometimes see their own last names as well. And this is very chilling. This gives me creeps. This is absolutely horrendous. And yes, this is not a happy place. So this is a place of mourning, and because also for some several years, up until basically the end of the Nuremberg trial, the again, so Holocaust was not really that widely discussed, and Jewish people just kept it to themselves, and they needed to let it out, and they wanted to make sure the world would not forget as well, and they wanted to show that they would never forget, and they will never forget. Again, I'm not sure how many plaques there are there, but there are many, many, and there are still places. I guess there still will be more of them. You know, some more people would like to come and just add something because I guess it's not in the still the exhaustive number and exhaustive list of places that perished during the Holocaust. And there is also a small museum, and it's not a museum, to be honest. Again, there's nothing really chronological there. It's not. like you can do an easily guided tour there. Again, it was not meant to be a museum, so there's no uh, it's not built as a museum that tells a story in a certain narrative. That's why there's a big difference between Yad Vashem and this particular chambers. And it does look like chambers. It's like a cellar even, because the word Martef is, I hope I pronounce it right, is actually a cellar. And but here you can see a lot of items that were brought by the survivors to the Holy Land. For example, they brought with themselves some propaganda and anti-Semitic materials, um, books, pamphlets, all sorts of artworks, and also some documents. So they brought some of the documents that they were given by the Nazis as well. So people had this in their archives. And well, also I don't want to get into the deep, the long history of Holocaust, but we know that it started, well, the repressions toward Jews in Germany started way before the Second World War started in 1933. After Hitler's party came to power, almost immediately he was given the unlimited rights to pass any law bills, and this is when the endless series of repression laws, one worse than another, would be signed and put into force immediately. And officially Holocaust, well, okay, let's say the start of the Second World War, 1939, and then starting from 1942, the solution to the problem was accepted right after, well, a conference in 1942. So we all know what solution to a problem was. It was the extermination in the extermination camps and the gas chambers and ghettos. Well, but ghettos had been there even before. So I mean, since the start of the war. So all that people kept in their archives. Um, uh, Many people were just stripped of everything, and Jewish people, let's say, one of the very first laws that would be signed by Hitler would be just taking the citizenship, taking the right to own the property, uh, education, and multiple wars. So the Jews were at some point were no longer even allowed to have a business, not to use a public transport, and many other laws like that would be issued every day. It was like a crazy printing machine that kept printing these laws, and the world seemed oblivious to that. Obviously, we need to understand that there was a very strong propaganda machine, and Hitler just was there at the right time, at the right place with the idea. Well, I guess it also needs some explanation. Um, After the First World War, Germany was in a horrible state. They had to pay huge reparations and everything and disarm. So it took this country a while to come to senses after that. And then there would be this kind of the wild 20s, but then the world economic crisis, and Germany again was in a horrible condition with the horrendous inflation rate. And this is when, well, the first attempt, Hitler's party in the 1920s didn't get the majority and didn't pass. But then, after the great economic crisis, when with the right, what what seemed right propaganda, blaming for all the difficulties and hardships of life of Germans, blaming it on the Jews, that that worked, that clicked, and this is how, almost in the blink of an eye, Hitler became uh, the well, the most powerful man in the country. And this is when it started. So this is the continuation. So you see, this does look like a chamber. This looks like stellar. Here we see more of these plaques. So they all knew, well, they starting from the end of the 1940s, and it's not like there is even a certain date when the memorial was open. It's like people started bringing, and it was their own very private mourning site too, and the memorial. And then little by little, more people would be coming, and finally it didn't it was no longer a taboo to talk about Holocaust. It's not like it was prohibited, but again, as I said, there were a lot of issues connected with that. What would other people think? And people would not believe. Many people just could not believe that. We do know that, and it is known for a fact that some of the regular soldiers in the army, in German or Nazi army, didn't know the Holocaust. I'm not talking about the SS. I'm not talking about the military. I'm talking about just the 17, 16, 15, 20-year-old boys that were drafted. I'm not fencing anyone out. I'm not saying, well, they were innocent. They didn't know anything. No, I'm just saying that people found it very difficult to believe. And now what you see, right? So there is kind of the graves. They call it a grave, a transparent grave that contain different elements of the Jewish life that also were damaged during the Holocaust. For example, the parchment from Torah scrolls and the phylacteries, the tefillins, the small leather boxes with the strap that Jewish men would put on their hand, and also they would put it on their head, and this is kind of the prayer. They would cover themselves with a big praying shawl, and so this is how the Jewish people pray, men, and you see that they are damaged, they were burned. So there was also total disrespect towards any items of the Jewish culture, religion, books, Torah scrolls, which were very expensive. Every Torah scroll is written by hand, and it's expensive. And well, look, this is the phylacteries. You see what I'm talking about? I'm sure you have seen it. So whenever you just look up for a Jewish man praying, so you're most likely going to see him wearing a phylactery, so tefillin. You see, this is what these graves look like, the transparent graves. So, and indeed, it's interesting that well, if a Torah scroll is damaged, it's not thrown out; it's buried. And there is a place called Gnida, for example. This is also kind of a storage. So Torah scrolls are never thrown away. Just it's not like that. So they are taken care of. And this is kind of also the memorial. This is the kind of the closure also with regards to these items that were so violently destroyed, damaged. Over here, well, this is kind of this is a bit disturbing because these are also different Jewish books taken from the shuls, taken from the yeshivas, right? The schools, the religious schools, and they're covered in blood, uh, damaged, burned as well. You can see that. So heavily abused, I would say. This is the interesting thing over here. So these are the items, articles that served Jewish communities before the Holocaust. Well, the Bible with German translation, some tiles extracted from the mikvahs, which is the spiritual purification baths, and just some Yiddish literature. Yiddish is both the language of the Jewish people in diaspora in Europe, the Ashkenazim, and well, so just like we saw from the pre, it is called grave, so I would refer to it as a grave. So you see these items here. This is not, they were not damaged. They survived. So this is not a grave. This is just the way they're showcased. They're very old. So this is also the phylacteries. The phylacteries, well, the black thing to the right. In these boxes, there is also small parchment with bits of the prayer. There's one put on the head, one put on the hand. It's kind of the connection between the thoughts and what you and what you do, in a way. Okay. Um, let's just read that. So I shall give them the everlasting name that shall never be cut off. So it's from the book of Isaiah. There is this monument and this Chamber of Holocaust. It was created a little bit later, not once the memorial was established. And there's like altogether like 2,000 Jewish communities that decimated by the Nazis during the Holocaust. So it does say that the memorial was constructed by the Jewish survivors of the community. So this is kind of the inauguration flag and everything. But this was put together. It took several years for it to be put together, and well, as I said, it wasn't established within a day or a week or even a year. So there was kind of the dedication plaque. The rabbi obviously was present, and there are some artworks as well, um, and photographs. Well, we will see the artwork in a minute, but there is also one photograph there. The Jews reciting the Shema Israel, the prayer, the moment before they would be shot by the Nazis. So this was a very common practice. What the Nazis would do, they would by force pull the Jewish people from, well, the Jewish kids, the Jewish people from the shuls, from the synagogues, and they would put them in a line. They would make them pray, and then they would execute them. That was a very, very common practice, unfortunately. And yeah, some of it would be documented. And amazingly, as many of you know, Germans are Germans, so they're very meticulous. So they did a very good job on all the paperwork. So the Holocaust history, the systems of the camps and how it worked and everything was so very well documented. Um, it's just impeccable, I would say, the way it was all addressed from the point of view of paperwork. There are a lot of photographs. Well, the memorial does not feature it does have some photographs, but you can find a lot worse photographs in open access just online, and it is very sobering, of course. Yeah, and this is the artwork that was also placed a little later. Well, I guess it's pretty much obvious. So you can see in the very center is actually the torn prayer shawl. This is exactly the shawl that the Jewish men will be covering themselves during the prayer. And the talit, it's called talit. It has stripes. It comes in different colors. It also depends on the community, but this is you have an idea, and it's covered in blood. You can see the fire everywhere, right? Because fire is one of the symbols of Holocaust. Also, you see the broken, torn Torah scrolls. Also, you see to the right from the prayer shawl. Also, you see the lecture is also broken and lots of people perishing. And yeah, so I guess so. This is a very disturbing painting, but this is where it has to be. You can't think otherwise, right? You can't see otherwise. And thank you so much for the coffee. And there is another chamber there. Again, this is not a museum that is going to tell you the story, the history of the Holocaust from the beginning to the end. You have Yad Vashem Museum for it. In Yad Vashem Museum, everything is so well documented, explained. The tours are done on the top level. It's one of the best museums in the world from the point of view of even how museums should be arranged, how exhibits should be shown and spoken, and how they are presented, what the light is, and everything. This is for sure. It's not the easiest museum to go to, but it's one of those museums you just have to visit. Well, it doesn't have to be Yad Vashem, of course. So you don't have to come to Israel just for that. There are also other Holocaust memorials. It's one of those places you just need to visit for a sobering experience. And I remind you, I'm not Jewish, right? So you don't have to be Jewish to remember the Holocaust. There is a so why I say that it is a green place. That's because here you see some of the artifacts that survivors brought with them, such as the robes that they wore in stains, sometimes blood stains, of course. The well, the adults, children's robes. You see that, and I guess this is also quite sobering, just looking at the children's robe um, from a camp. This is, and why it also feels like it's again another cemetery in a way because there is this kind of the big common grave, and you see, well, you don't see what's written there, but you can immediately say that this is a grave because it has, and it's a Jewish grave because it has stones on it. One of the, well, the Jewish tradition is not to put flowers on the grave, but to put stones. Nobody really knows when this tradition came about, but most people would explain it so that, well, Jewish people come from the desert and there were no really flowers in the desert. And, but they were, but they were always, stones were always easier to find, always like a rocky area. So the stones are easier to find, and stones are not going to be blown with the wind. They're not going to dry. They would always remain there, rain or shine, snow. So maybe that's why this is the stones, but not the flowers. So what kind of grave is this? So in each of these flags, there's written the name of a camp. You know, there was a very well developed system of camps. They were, well, again, I don't want to go into many details about it, but okay, let's first of all read what's written here. So, in memory of millions of Jews who perished, sanctifying the name of God in the death camps, mass graves, right? This black marble monument, like the ashes of the Jewish victims taken from the crematoria in the death camp, the testimony of the destruction. Some people indeed bring with them ashes from the camps, since since people were burned in many of the camps, there was just a lot of ashes there. So generations of families just perished completely, and there was just ashes that people could get. So many people would bring it with them, and all these ashes were brought together and put in this grave. And so now, under all these black marble slabs, there are ashes from all these camps that are written there. I'm sure you've seen Stefan's tour of Westerberg, which was the kind of the transition camp, internment camp. This is where Anne Frank was, uh, and there was as I said, a very well developed system of different kinds of camps. Apart from just extermination camp, there were other camps, transition camps, kind of the old camps like Westerberg, which was sort of the well, it's kind of the how shall I put it, kind of the internment camp, but the conditions there were a bit more like a, a bit milder, so Jews kind of could feel a little bit at ease, so they wouldn't know what was coming afterwards. But afterwards, they would be normally either Bergen-Belsen or Auschwitz. But there were obviously many other kinds of camps and ghettos and everything. So here is written the names of all the camps where the ashes would be brought from. And yeah, so this is a grave because there's no way of finding any remains of anyone who perished because they were just burned, right? But yeah, this was the only way for the people to mourn, for the people to get at least something that's left from their relatives, if people knew at least something, because um, after the war, for many years, well, it took a while for the Red Cross and other bodies to go through the archives and to see who went to which camp. Still, some names are missing, but because Germans were so good at documentation and keeping the papers, a lot of information eventually surfaced, and people at least were able to locate uh, where their where their loved ones could have been killed. I mean, were killed. Why could have? They were. Okay, so again, n not really, well, some difficult photographs, but just not really graphic. The So life in the ghettos and in the camps, well, moved on. Like what else people could do, and well, the religious people would carry on praying. Dolores, thank you so much for the tip. They could carry on praying, keeping the Jewish holidays. Well, Yom Kippur, which is the 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 Day of Atonement. It's one of the most important days in the Jewish calendar. So the women, you see, they're wearing the Jewish signs, right? The Jewish stars. They are praying the Yom Kippur. Women pray in the courtyard of the Lodge ghetto. What else could people do? And they, I'm sure well, for you who have done different tours on this topic, you may have heard of for all the ways how Jewish people carried on, even lighting, the menorahs for Shabbat, and they would just be making menorahs from anything, from nothing. And yes, so obviously people were taken off of all their belongings when they were brought to the camp, and God forbid for them to have, sometimes well, the prayer books with them. In the ghetto, people had the books, but in the camps they did not. So people would just write it in hand, the prayer book in hand by memory. And many, of course, after reciting prayers for the entire life, you probably could also reproduce it and just put it into writing. So these belong to the prisoner in the Buchenwald concentration camp, handwritten. It's very dark there, so the video, when I try to zoom in, it doesn't really give you very crispy image, but I think it's the best it could do. Yeah, this is better. Well, we also know we've spoken about it, right? This is a garment. This is a shirt that was made from parchment, right? It's something really bizarre to see, but I mean, I'm putting it here. So the cost of revenge. So this coat of revenge was made of the parchment from a Torah scroll, and it was made by a Jewish tailor. He was forced by a Nazi oppressor to sew it in order to show contempt for Jewish faith. So they totally desecrated the Torah scroll. Torah scroll is such a sacred item. Like, yeah, you one is not even allowed to touch it with their fingers. So you only open it by holding uh, the tops, kind of the ends of it, right? And then you roll out the Torah scroll, and you would not even touch it with your hand. You would touch it with a special kind of a stick pointer. It's called Yad, hand. And that was just complete desecration and a very obvious sign of contempt for the Jewish faith. And there were many cases like that. And so this was brought by someone. It was kept by someone to remember. This is totally bizarre. Absolutely. Um, a few more things to see. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes, and to be honest, it's not an easy tour at all, but it has to be done. Yes, it's just kind of a part of just comes with the package, I guess, right? There is also a table that was taken from one. Well, it's the survivor table. I'm not entirely sure how it's reached the Holy Land, but this here also represents, well, just the studying, right? Here are the books. You can study there. Here, it's just like a little part of a shul, where, or like in yeshiva, right, where one could read, uh, where one could study. And it's also, by the way, I guess, since I'm not sure how some of you are familiar with the Jewish culture, because, well, my tours are now for general public, anyone, and it's just about spreading the knowledge, I would say. So the synagogue in general is not really a sacred place. So there was only one sacred place, that was the temple. I mean, the two temples, right? But synagogue is a place where you study, you pray, you get together with the members of your community. Um, well, but it doesn't have the holy status. So shul is well, it's the word like school, right? But from Yiddish. So this is this is the place, the yeshiva, the place where you study, the place where you talk about Torah, you talk to the teachers, and well, all these things. Um, a few more things. So one more photograph. Again, nothing graphic, but quite disturbing. So the it was again, as I said, people would be practicing everything, so the Jewish life, just as they could. And what we're going to look at is the Hanukkah menorah, right? So the special menorah with the 9 candles instead of the 7 candles, like 7 days of the week. That's a different holiday. It's different menorah, and it was made of potato peels. This is not the original potato peels because they were gone, but so these were made just as a copies to the Hanukkah menorah made from potato peels in the Auschwitz camp. We will see it, and also we will see the photograph in Poland. So there was a Jew that was forced to stand by the synagogue with the Star of David around his neck, another symbol of contempt, right? Um, and this is the I, 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 s- I don't know how they managed to light it. I guess the potato peels were dry and they would just light it and they would just burn. I don't think if they were able to keep it, well, to keep all of them for the 9 days. I don't think so. But well, this is it. This is not the original potato peels. This is just something that was recreated. And this is impressive. Uh, I don't know how they did that. I don't know how it worked. And I'm not sure I want to know because just even seeing that, okay, this is probably, um, okay, this is also disturbing. I mean, everything is pretty disturbing here. The burnt Torah scrolls, synagogues were destroyed, right? People were killed just in the synagogue, or just outside of the synagogues, and then everything will be burned. The phylacteries, so the filling boxes are still there. Remnants of Torah scrolls, they're saturated with the blood as well, so burned and completely soaked in blood, so from Poland. The light was so terrible there. I mean, it is dark, and it has to be. It's a cellar, right? It's the chamber, so the atmosphere there is it's not an easy place to be, but it's I think it's just exactly as it should be. Yad Vashem is different, so there's no way you can compare the two. They're absolutely different, and I'm just happy that they're both of them are there. In order to display it, they had to put what was left of the Torah scroll, so soaked in blood and burned. They just had to. I don't know how exactly they did that, but they put the two layers of film, and then just kind of laminated it in a way, I guess. And now we can at least see it. Okay, this is interesting too. Obviously, a lot of people brought with them the yellow stars as a symbol of, well, remembrance, right? So they're remembered. And they would also bring some items with them. And also they brought this. So this is a drum, a wallet, I guess. I'm not sure if it's a wallet. Um, a, a, a cap or something made from parchment, from Torah parchment. Or I'm not sure if you can see it, so I will just move back a little bit. But there was also a bag and the linen, so the inner parts of the bag were also made from the parchment from Torah. So that was the ultimate um, as- um okay stage of contempt, maybe, if this is if this is the right way to say it. And also there are more of these plaques over there on that side, if you can see. So all the walls have these plaques, all the walls. So another blood-stained Torah scrolls. This is from Tunisia, from Jerba. And I was in Jerba, I was in Tunisia. I didn't go to any of the synagogues, but it was so, well, like Tunisia, right? There was just, like, how was it possible? How the Holocaust, like, you would think that Holocaust never really reached Tunisia, but uh, actually also a lot of communities suffered outside of Europe as well. The waves of anti-Semitism, and so that happened in Tunisia too. I don't know which year, I don't know how exactly, but so they said the blood stains on the Torah scrolls. Okay, I think that's enough. So let's have a Q&A. Good. I'm not even going to overrun. So again, this tour was not meant to make you shed a tear. It was not meant to teach you how bad Holocaust was. It's just about the memory, as I said. I was happy to see the story of this girl, of the Knobel family, the survivors, and all this museum was created by the survivors. So it's about people wanting to move on and living with such a trauma. I mean, you cannot forget it. People wanted to move on, but they didn't want to forget, but they wanted to move on. And maybe that was the part of getting over the trauma as well. So this place absolutely has to be there. And I'm happy that I've done this tour. I hesitated, but I just said I had to do this. So I'm happy that I did eventually. Yeah, thank you, Sharon. You never heard of this place. Wow. And you have been to Israel so many times, dear. Well, next time, yeah, and that's exactly what I said. Not everyone is aware of this place. And I also didn't learn about it immediately. We were not told about this memorial at our guides courses, well, because there were so many other things we were told about, and obviously we were taken to Yad Vashem for sure. But this is kind of a very different memorial. They don't really publicize much. They don't advertise this museum. It's just there. It's like um just maybe it's not a secret place, but it feels a little bit like it is a little bit of a secret place. And I'm not even I don't know. I haven't seen anyone there when I was filming. I and all the other times that I was there were just very few people, and they were locals. So I guess this is kind of the places that kind of, okay, if it can be applied to a gem, well, I mean, to this place. So it's kind of the local gems, it's kind of the unique memorials, and it is so authentic. Uh, Hi, Adrian. I'm so sorry I didn't see you join. I'm happy you did, but cannot post photos. I never have to go there ever again. Um, why would you need to post these photos? No, I mean, well, again, this is not an easy tour, but for sure. I totally understand that. Thank you so much for a copy. I don't know who it is from, but I will see when I open the email. Thank you so much. Cindy, hi dear. I thought you wouldn't join considering everything. I can't believe, yeah, the deniers. Yes, there are the deniers. And, well, I don't even want to talk about what's happening nowadays. It's really complex, but yeah, so remembering is important. So this is the place of remembering. Thank you, Maria. He who doesn't remember the past has no future. Yeah, absolutely. There is no future without the past. So Dolores says, I have been to Yad Vashem, but never heard of this memorial. Yes, Dolores, this is a very common thing. So, so sad, so hard to believe such horrors could happen in the 20th century. Yeah. On Facebook, anyone would see such artifacts so sadly damaged. Yeah, well, mm, this museum doesn't have photographs of hundreds of bodies, hordes of bodies. No, it doesn't have any like that. But just seeing a Torah scroll in blood, well, to me, it's gut wrenching, just as gut wrenching and seeing all the photos from the camps. You don't have to show that. You don't have to show the photos from the camps. You just show them the artifacts that survived that, right? This is very sobering. Marcy, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing us to see this very important place and hear the sobering stories. Thank you so much. And hi, I also was unaware of this museum, Anna. As ever, you have given us another great tour. I'm impressed with your sensitivity and compassion to considering you are not Jewish yourself. Thank you for continuing to take us on all these places, museums, castles, cities. I have learned so much. Thank you so much, and you don't have to be Jewish to know or to be aware of the atrocities of the Holocaust. Um, I mean, you just need to be human. You just need to be human for this type of things. Come on. So yeah, but thank you so much, Anne. Thank you. It really means a lot to me. Yes, I have just shared the links. Also, Marcy, I have just shared the links. So you can see the first link is my PayPal. The second one is buy me a coffee. So these are the two ways you can support me. It's just either way, both of them work with me fine. And also, just in case, to those who haven't done many tours with me, there is also an additional option if you want to see some other tours. And I have done some other Holocaust Remembrance tours in St. Petersburg. There was a museum as well. So there are 900 plus video recordings of all of my tours. St. Petersburg, Israel, Amsterdam, uh, must be something else, and Georgia, of course, Tbilisi. So there is this option, kind of it's called sponsorship, which is $10 payment monthly, extra to the tips. So if you're interested, there's well something that you might find interesting, depending on what your interests are, on my YouTube channel. So I will be sharing this recording on my YouTube channel the usual way, and then I will be closing access in a week from now. It's again, as I said, on my website. You can find already some recordings as of yesterday. I am totally drained. I don't think I will be able to do anything more today. It's just a little too much. But so on my website, I will be sharing the recordings around these dates, and I will be sharing the new tours, the new schedule, which is definitely going to be less than this weekend. And I'm hoping I will be able to go back to my boys, and I will be doing the tours from home, I think, because I would want to be with my boys. I haven't seen them. I won't have seen them for 3 weeks by the end of the week. Maria, thank you so much. So, and I was late because the evening bright and they hate me. I'm so sorry, Adrian. So I will be sharing the recording if you want to see the beginning of it, so please be my guest. More than welcome. Thank you, Margaret. Repulsive, unimaginable. I do like the synagogue signs. Patreon, no, Natalie, I don't do Patreon. I don't have Patreon. Maybe I should consider getting this, but it is a lot less known in the West than Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. Maybe I should consider Patreon as well. We'll see. We'll hug Kitty and get the recharges. Ellen, I'm not staying with the Kitty. I'm staying with Ruth, one of the fellow viewers. But I can go and hug her too. Why not? She will be surprised, but she also knows what kind of tour I'm doing. Hey, maybe that was a wrong decision to do this tour after the 7 hour tours of the after the weekend, but this just totally, this is it. I'm done. I definitely need a recharge. Um, Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you for your interest in this tour. This is not, probably the the mm, uh, the easiest tour of the weekend, right? It's probably not the tour you would want to watch, just for fun. It's definitely not, but thank you that you're here. It means a lot. Thank you, everyone. I will see you soon. Next weekend, I'll keep you posted. And also tomorrow, I should go to Jaffa and get my knafe, well-deserved knafe, right? I will keep you posted, and I promise to report on my stories about the knafe if I get it. Thank you, everyone. It's time to go to bed. I will see you soon and hope you for a quiet night here in the Middle East. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your support and for your interest. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.